Now we're all experts in shiur sekalim.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not in breaking vessels, just in understanding why that happens. Okay, so that means the Rebbe told us as follows. The Mayim Rabim, all of the craziness of this world that might obscure godliness, can't douse the natural love, the Ava Mesuteris, the hidden natural love of the Nefesh Elokis, of the godly soul. And why is it that Shlomo Melech has to tell us that? What did we learn yesterday? Why isn't that obvious?
Because you might think, because it comes from Tohu, which is a higher level.
Ah, beautiful. Right? That's exactly the answer. That since the Mayim Rabim comes from a level of reality that you and I call Olam Hatoyu, which is a very, very lofty level of godly reality. It's all godliness, it's all holiness up there. When that event that happens up there emanates down here, it turns into what you and I call Yeshus, what you and I call apparently independent reality. Okay, up there, it's all Kedusha, it's holiness. That place called Olam Hatoyu is a place that's higher. That means more powerfully connected to higher levels of godly reality than Olam Hatikun. What's a synonym for Olam Hatikun? Olam Hatzilus, right? The world of emanation, which is the source of the neshama. And how do you know that Olam Hatzilus is the source of the neshama? What do you say every day? Ah, it's so nice to be listened to. I feel like I'm teaching my family.
You say Nefach Yitzhak.
Okay. Neshama shenasata bi taharahi. It's tahar. That's Olam Hatzilus. Ata barasa. Came in through Olam Habriya. Ata Yatzarta. Came through Olam HaYetzira. Ata nefachta bi. You blew it into me, and Olam HaSiyah into this Olam HaZeh Gashmi. But where does it start? Taharahi. What's Taharahi? So Olam Hatzilus. Seder. So the source of the neshama is Olam Hatzilus, which in our Maimer has been called Olam Hatikun. They're synonymous. Right? Not always, but in this case they are. Right? Olam Hatikun. And why is Olam, and especially in the context of Olam Hatoyu, why is Olam Hatzilus called Olam Hatikun? Because as godly energy emanates down in an oifen, in a way of shvira, the brokenness, which we described yesterday and understood yesterday, and I hope we remember what we learned yesterday, because it's extremely important. Right? So that event called shiur sekalim, the breaking of the vessels, that event produces the experience of reality that you and I have. Experience called yesh, separateness, independent existence. Okay? So that as that godliness emanates down in that way, there's one place where, so to speak, a Kadosh Baruch Hu fixed it. And what's that called? Olam Hatzilus. So Olam Hatzilus is a place of complete and total godly revelation. No sense of yesh. No sense of separateness in Olam Hatzilus. That's why when we say there's something called Bria Yesh Mi'ayin, the creation of something that experiences separateness from something that is not, what's that ayin? Olam Hatzilus. Olam Hatzilus is not Yesh. In the context of creation of the world, when we say Bria Yesh Mi'ayin, Kriatio ex nihilo, if that makes it easier to understand. Right? So what does that mean? That means that a state of ayin, a state of godly reality that does not experience itself as separate in any way, shape, or form, gave birth to something that does experience itself as a separate created being. Olam HaBriya. Up there in Olam HaBriya, they're not walking around very impressed by themselves and talking about themselves. The angels up there, you can't get them to say the word I. They're just not interested. But they are a yesh. They're a separate existence. They're not the Eibishter. Olam Hatzilus is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's up there in Olam Hatzilus, so to speak? What exists in Olam Hatzilus that is completely godly?
The sphere.
10 spheres. Right? That's where the 10 spheres come into a state of revelation. Do they exist before? Of course they exist before. All those aspects of godly reality exist before, but they're completely hidden. They're subsumed in the infinite light. They're not revealed in any way, shape, or form. Right? What does infinite reveal? Infinite. What doesn't it reveal? Differentiated reality in any way, shape, or form. There's no revelation of 10 in infinite reality. Is what's revealed as 10 in Eilam Atzilus, do those levels of reality exist in the infinite light? Of course they do. They're aspects of godly reality. But in infinite light, which you and I call our Sevev, so in that place they're not revealed. So what is one of the things that Atzilus is called? Gilui Helen, the revelation of what was heretofore hidden. What's revealed in Eilam Atzilus? 10 spheres. 10 different aspects of godly reality. Does that mean God all of a sudden became 10? No, he's one. But all of these 10 aspects of godly reality are subsumed in that oneness. That's Atzilus. So it's a godly world, it's not a created world. But what comes out of that place? What does Malchus of Atzilus give birth to? Eilam Abriya, the world of creation. We don't have a board, right? Oh, we do. Was it there the other day?
No.
Okay.
I think the high schoolers looked it up.
No, good for them. Thank you.
Because this is no longer being used to clean my mustache after I have a cup of coffee. Find something else.
Nothing like whiteboards. Barry, you remember the old blackboards and green boards with all the dust and the chalk and all that stuff? Remember having to clean those
I
off?
try and block out bad memories.
What?
I try and block out bad memories.
Right, unbelievable. And if you had a detention, that's what you used to have to do. You'd have to clean off the blackboard in the detention.
You have to stay after school. Kaplan, stop talking. You're staying after school.
Oh, no. I'll give you the one of those, that thing, I don't know what they called, the brush, and then the chamois. The chamois, you had to go over it again because it was full of dust. And you went over it and made it nice and clean.
You have to take the erasers and go like that.
Yeah, and you had to take those erasers and go like that, and basically you took 5 years off your life because of all the dust you were ingesting into your lungs.
It was fun.
What?
It was fun.
It was fun doing that, especially next to your best friend. Don't do it to an enemy. Okay. Atzilus. Bria. You came just in time, Doc.
Yeah.
Right? What's Atzilus? So relative to Bria, Bria is where Yesh happens. Bria Yesh, from what? Ayin. Now in this context, what does that mean? That means created reality from non-created reality. Atzilus isn't created reality. Atzilus is godly reality. It's God the creator. God has processed himself, so to speak, to turn himself into a creator. What's the actual point in Atzilus that gives birth to Eilam Abriya? That's called Malchus. Malchus of Atzilus. Because Malchus is that place in every world, in every state of reality, that is the source of the level that comes from that reality. You say every Friday night, what's Malchus in you? Dibur. Malchus, Peh, Torah Shabbat Peh. Say it every Friday night. Right? Notice tomorrow night you're going to say that. Right? Malchus, Peh, Torah Shabbat Peh. Actually, you say it Friday afternoon. Right before. So, Malchus Peh, Torah Shabbat Peh, meaning what's Peh? Peh is where you reveal yourself to the rest of the world. Right? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from your machshava, your thought. Thought's complete. It's just you. It's hidden in you. It's not revealed to anybody. When you want to reveal thought, you do something called speech. Usually you use your mouth to do that. What did I do with that other piece? What happened?
Did you clean the board with?
Yeah, what did I do with
Put
it?
it in the trash.
Oh, I threw it in the trash? Okay, thank you. Glad there's someone watching what I'm doing, so I'll know. Don't worry, you'll get there too.
You deprived yourself of the opportunity to make your beard blue.
Blue. Remember those old ladies that had blue hair?
I live in Texas.
How'd
There's
they
a lot of old ladies.
Yeah, how did they get blue? Did they dye it blue? How did they get blue hair? Where did the blue hair come from? It was like a thing. I don't. Is it still a thing? Are there still ladies with blue hair?
Purple.
No, purple. Okay, that's already weirdos. That's like please, please, please pay attention to me. Please look at me. Please.
Rich old women in Dallas have blue hair.
Yeah, rich old women in Dallas have blue hair. Wow, blue hair. I mean, they must dye it, right? Doesn't it? It's not like it doesn't go blue, right? Silver.
They're definitely not writing that much Torah on.
No, they're not writing numbers. They're taking the Torah. They're going doing it with their hands. Yeah. Blue bloods. Now you wonder why. You guys probably wonder why I do it. Well, this is the reason. Because if I don't do that, it ends up on that. So. Doc, get ready already. Come on, enough. I'm draying around here, so you'll be with us, and you're busy with your. Okay, come on, let's go. I'm just draying around, trying to pretend that I've lost my track, just so I'm waiting for you to. Again, you're busy draying with your
Did you
track.
hang with Asher Goldsmith?
What?
Did you know Asher Goldsmith?
I knew his daughter because she used to live here.
Yeah.
Ran the SEM up there.
She came back yesterday.
I think I knew an older sister also. No. What you're basically telling me is you think that he's unstable. Because I remind you of him, and I really appreciate that, Barry. First day in class, that's what you say. Okay. Toyu. Right? Eilam Atzilus, the godly energy that emanates from Toyu, and I'm going to say it the way it's said in Chassidus, and I'm not translating it this time because I've translated it 5 times already. It emanates down in an oifen of shvira. What does ofen mean? Way. What does shvira mean? Brokenness. Okay, that's it. I translated it. You see, I'm not a man of my word. An oifen of shvira. So that means everything that comes out of that place should express that reality of shvira. And what does that reality of shvira create, bring about? So as we talked about it yesterday, the sense of lack of unity, lack of oneness. Once I no longer appreciate the oneness of all of reality, I then appreciate the independent existence of the reality I'm encountering. Right? So that piece of the jigsaw puzzle, I pick it up and it doesn't say that I'm part of a flower in a field, which is what it is in the big picture when it's bottled to the oneness of the big picture. What does that yellow piece of puzzle say? I'm yellow. It expresses itself. I am yellow. No, you're not. You're the middle of a flower. You're the middle of a daisy, right? The middle of a daisy is yellow. You're the middle of a daisy in a field next to a castle in a picture. And the picture is one big picture. And when the picture's across the room, you don't even see the fact that the picture's made up of 1,000 pieces. Okay. So to the reality, you and I experience it. Looks like it's all differentiated reality. It has nothing to do with each other. But what is it really? It's all just revealing God's oneness. But that's when I fix the brokenness. That the Eibishter fixed Eilam Atzilus, so it's called Eilam Atikun. Whatever that means. Just deal with those words. You don't have to worry about it. What I mean, he fixed it. Meaning, Eilam Atzilus is not a world that expresses shvira. It expresses oneness. Eilam Abriya, back to shvira. Right now, the shvira in Eilam Abriya is not so powerful because what? Even though you will be aware of differentiated, created reality, if you were to take a field trip to Eilam Abriya, you'd see all sorts of angels up there. You'd also see all sorts of souls because Gan Eden Elyon, Upper Gan Eden, is in Eilam Abriya. Okay, so you would see differentiated reality, but that differentiated reality is in a state of complete bittul. Talk to an angel. Tell me about yourself. Not interesting. You want to talk about God? I'll talk to you. You don't want to talk about God? Go to the other end of the bench. Right. Down here we're talking baseball. Right? Okay. Down here we're talking God. You want to go over there? You can talk about whatever you want. Right? What's over there? So the angel in Eilam Abriya. You want to talk about something else? Go to Eilam Asiyah. You just take the elevator down a few floors and you go to the created world and you can talk about anything you want. But up here we talk about one thing and one thing only. Kadosh Baruch Hu, because we're intensely aware of the fact that He created us and He's all that exists. That doesn't mean they're not a yesh. They are a yesh. They're created reality. But they're a yesh in a state of bittul. What's their agenda? God. What's not their agenda? Self. Do they know they exist? Of course they know they exist. Right? But they're just not so interested in that part of their reality. They're interested in the godliness of their reality. So they're like that bottle of Niviot that's shining through that which is in it very clearly. Right? The bottle's rather plain. The bottle is very bottled to what's ever in it, because the bottle is very, very clearly interested in revealing to you what its panemius is, what its inner reality is, and is not interested in telling you how beautiful I am as a bottle. It's not doing that. Right? Whereas the coffee cup that you bought in a store on some street in downtown somewhere, and that coffee cup has you picked it up because it's such a beautiful kli, and you might not even drink coffee of it. You might put it on a shelf and just let it sit there on the shelf, because it's not about coffee. It's just about the kli itself. It's this nice kli. The kli is saying, "Aren't I nice? Aren't I a nice kli?" Right? And interesting enough, the kli hides what's in it. Right? Now, this coffee cup, especially this one, right? Because he's like a one-timer, right? All he does is once in his life he has coffee or tea in it. That's it. Okay? Still, interesting enough, he's interested in you appreciating all the, I don't know who made this cup and how completely lacking in creativity, whoever it was that decided to make a cup with the most bland, uninteresting colors possible. But okay. So it's not like you go, oh wow, what a beautiful cup. But still, the cup is expressing its own existence and in no way, shape, or form revealing what's in it. That's Eilam Hazeh. There are kelim that reveal what's in them. That's Eilam Abriya. The kli doesn't hide what's in it. It's bottled to what's in it. So the neshama comes from Atzilus. And the craziness of Eilam Hazeh, the Mayim Rabim, comes from Toyu. So how can it possibly be? Therefore, before we get to the how can it possibly be, we said yesterday that's where we're going. So therefore, the Rebbe explains that's why Shlomo Melech has to say to us that even though you would think that since the power of the Mayim Rabim is coming from a higher place than the power of the neshama, then it would therefore overpower the neshama. Just like down here in Eilam Hazeh, I think you might experience now and then that your Nefesh HaBahamis seems to be a little more powerful than your Nefesh Elokis, at least in terms of your conscious experience, right? Now, it's not really. That's what we're learning. Well, I don't understand. It certainly feels like it is. I have to work pretty hard not to live my life according to my Nefesh HaBahamis' desires, right? If I just let my Nefesh HaBahamis have whatever it wants, well, who knows where I'll end up. Blue hair. Okay, so we're 4 lines up from the bottom of the paragraph on page Ayin Dalid Reish. Right? We just said, even though the source of the Mayim Rabim is higher than the source of the neshama, because the source of the Mayim Rabim is Toyu, and the source of the neshama is Tikkun, which is Atzilus. Still, it doesn't douse the love. Why not? Now, okay, we understand Shlomo Melech told us that it doesn't, so then we have to ask Sotaka, why not? Vatam lezeh, the reason for this, who? Kamesha Kosev Lifnei says, we said before this, the Rebbe is referring to an earlier mimer. I'm sorry, an earlier pasuk in shiur. Rishafer Rishvei Eish, it's a burning fire, and Shlomo Melech is referring to the neshama. Shalhevis Ka, it's the flame of Yudke. Oh. So the neshama is referred to as a flame, which is part of this Mushal, right? Because then the next thing it says is in the Mayim Rabim can't douse the flame. Sheshorish neshama va'ava nisutera shaba. The source of the neshama and the hidden love that's in that neshama, that's a natural aspect, a natural reality in the neshama. Who? What's the true source of the neshama? Who ba'atzmus or ein seif is the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Shalamayla gam mibechinas tayu, that is also beyond tayu. Meaning the true source of the neshama is beyond tayu, and that's why the neshama has the ability to overcome the very powerful influence of tayu. And what's the true source of the neshama? Atzmus. So you might ask, and we'll deal with it in a second, but I want to read further, but I hope you're now bothered by saying, well, I understand, hold on, this is what? This was all a setup? It was all a game? Right, I understand. The Rebbe asks a question and explains that the Shlomo Melech has to say what he says because the source of the neshama is tikkun, and the source of the Mayim Rabim is Eilam Atayu, and therefore I have to be told that the Mayim Rabim can't wipe out the neshama because that's a big chiddush, but that's not really true. Well, what's that about? Okay, we'll go there in a second. But first, let's see what the Rebbe says. The reason the neshama can overcome the power of the shvira of Eilam Atayu is because the true source of the neshama is atzmus, shalamayla gam mitayu, which is also higher than tayu. Now the Rebbe says a beautiful thing. We'll come back to the question we just asked once we see the rest of the paragraph. The source of the love that exists in every Jewish soul, is like the flame of Yudke, but as it is connected, kesher is a tie, a bond, it's connected, bonded, ugenuza, and concealed, hidden, like Geniza. You put things away in Geniza. But gachelis, what's a gachelis? A gachelis is a coal, like a coal from a barbecue. It's a burning coal. Okay, so now what's more powerful, the flame or the coal?
Cool.
Coal. What do you cook on? You don't cook on the flames. If you know how to barbecue, which maybe you don't yet, but you'll learn because you'll have kids and you'll make barbecues and you'll learn how to do it. You wait till there's no flame. And then you cook on the coals, which are much hotter than the flame. Now, how do you know the flame is not as powerful an expression of eish, of fire, as the coal? Okay, if there is a flame in those coals, how do you get rid of it? How do you get rid of the flame? How do you get rid of a fire? What do you do?
Water?
Yeah, a little water. How much water do you have to throw on it before there's no flame? Cup. How much water do you have to throw on it before there's no burning coals? They are completely extinguished. A couple of bottles. Right? The forest fire that you don't want to cause. Smokey the Bear doesn't want you to cause a forest fire. What does he tell you to do when you make a fire in your campsite? Put it out. What do you have to put it out? You have to make sure there's no flame. Yeah, flame is nothing. Right? What do you have to make sure? There's no coals. To get rid of those, after you've been sitting by a fire for 3 or 4 hours at a campsite, and so there's a mound of coals this big in there. How long does it take to put those out? Bottles and bottles and bottles of water. You have to soak it. You surround it with rocks, soak it, and let them sit in the water, and they'll be sizzling in there for quite a while. And if you don't put them out, when you wake up in the morning, if you've surrounded it properly, you can do this, right? If you wake up in the morning and you need a fire, what do? Take a little kindling, throw it on the coals. You'll have a fire in 5 minutes. You haven't sat by the fire for 6 hours. You had a night's sleep. All right? They're still burning up. You could cook a steak up. Coals much, much, much hotter. Okay, and that's what you cook on in a barbecue. That's why you cook on a barbecue. You wait for the fire to go out.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Only you can prevent forest fires. That's true. Okay, so that's the coal. which is a deeper expression of Eish. Interestingly enough, less revealed. That's why I might think the fire is more fire than the coal. No, the fire, the flame. It's not the fire. The flame. The flame is a more revealed expression of fire. There's no doubt about it. But the heat is not the flame. The heat is the coals. Once the flames go out, those coals are burning hot. That's what you're cooking on. And of course, the steak will cook perfectly, and the hot dogs will all burn on the outside. There'll be charcoal on the outside, but you just keep turning them over, they'll be okay. Right? It's really hot. Coals, gecheles. Less revealed, but more powerfully Eish. Yeah, but there's going to be a level beyond that also. Genuza begecheles, rishvei Eish, that's the burning fire. Ulamayla yeser, and even higher than the gecheles, kameshu bebechinas tzur. What's tzur? Flint. Flint. What's flint? Flint is a rock. What happens when you hit flint? Sparks come out. What's in every lighter? Flint. Right. Well, yeah. You're 100%. There's the butane down below, and how does the butane light?
There's a little guy in there with the rock in there.
There's a little guy in there. That's right. All those horses that were in the old trains, right? The first trains, everybody's looking for the horses inside the trains, like who's pulling the train. So, right. So when you go like that on the lighter, what are you doing? You're rubbing metal against the flint, creates a spark, but simultaneously you're opening a valve, and so the butane goes up and ignites. If you do it very, very slowly, then you just empty out all the butane. Okay. In the old days, they didn't have, it wasn't, I don't know, and it's still liquid today, right? It just turns into gas as soon as you open it. Is that how it works? I guess. In the old days, what was it? It was a wick that was sitting in liquid something, and the wick would actually light when it was just, that was low tech.
It had to be silver.
It had to be silver. Yes, it had to be silver. Right. Okay. So there's flint. What's flint? So flint is a mashal for etzem, for essential reality. Flint is essential Eish. Why? Because what's the difference between flint and coals? Coals are, as much as they're not as revealed as shalhevet, as the flame, it's still a revealed state of Eish. It's glowing, right? It's glowing red. Okay. Flint is dark and cold. No Eish. But what's concealed in there? Eish. Now what's really interesting about flint, because the Rebbe is talking about the level of the neshama, etzem and neshama, which is essential neshama, that no Mayim Rabim can douse. Nothing will douse it. Why? Because it's in an essential state of connection to godliness, and nothing can upset that state of connection. Nothing. Why is flint such an amazing moshel for that? Well, a flint stone. If you were to take that flint stone and put it in water for 15 years, and take it out and hit it with a hammer, what would happen? Spark. All the water in the world would not affect the fact that that flint is the true source of the Eish. It's an amazing thing. The Eish created it that way just so you and I would understand something about Etzem and Neshama. Right? The Etzem and Neshama can encounter Mayim Rabim for its whole life down here in Elam Hazeh. It has a life before and a life after. But as long as it's connected to a neshama that's clothed in a body down here in Elam Hazeh, and has to deal with the body, and has to deal with the animal soul, and has to deal with all the craziness and the ikka craziness, figuring out how to make a living, as the Rebbe is teaching us in this mimer, all of that. The essence of the soul can be immersed in that water, and in no way, shape, or form does it affect the essential state of that soul. That soul is still the source of the light, of the love of the neshama for the Eibush. The burning, passionate love, the Eish. Just amazing motion. Why the Abishah create something called flint? Well, probably so we'll understand. We have a mushal for the etzem and the shama, right? The angels were watching him create Elam Hazeh. What's that? It's something very important that you couldn't understand because you live in a world of revelation. You don't understand what essential reality is. Down there, those people who I'm creating down there are going to live in a world of concealment. So they're going to appreciate essential reality. You guys are blinded by the concealment. They're not. You guys are blinded by the light. So you can't appreciate essential godliness. They're going to experience essential godliness. Because they're going to experience a level of godliness that is there, intense, and immovable, even though it's dark and cold. That's Etzem. There's no light in Etzem. Etzem is the source of light. But it's not light. The essence of God.
How do you reconcile that the flint doesn't make the coals though until it makes the fire?
It's the source of the fire. It's the source of it all.
If we're saying the flint is greater than the coals and the coals are greater than the fire.
Because where do the coals come from? If there's no flint, there's no coals. Right? Meaning, but you call the flint whatever you want, right? With a match, I don't know. I would assume that I wouldn't be surprised at all if that strip on the side of the matchbox also has some, made flint in some way. I don't know.
It's just friction.
Yeah, that's friction, a seder, but you wonder what's making that friction.
Oh,
What's in that? I mean, I rub it on the other side of the box, and there's friction, and nothing's happening. Right? So I don't know. I don't know what they put in that paper, but. It doesn't have to be flint, but flint in Gashmias, flint is the ultimate source of fire, even though it itself is dark and cold, which is just so interesting. Right? Bang it with a hammer, a spark will come. We figured out other ways over time. Pack a little sulfur at the end of a little stick, and you'll get some fire also. Okay, say, right? Ukamashu b'chinas tsur, shelamayla mi'avaya, a level beyond Yud Kei Vav Kei. What's Yud Kei Vav Kei? Revealed light, the source of revealed light. What's Etzem? Etzem's beyond light. Right? What's light? Light is what emanates out from the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. What's light? Godly energy. Where does it come from? The Eibishter himself. How do we describe the Eibishter himself? What do we call that in Chassidus? Atzmusa Yisbarach, the Etzem of the Eibishter. And we've talked about this so often, that light exists only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to. It doesn't have to exist. The only thing that is what's called Mechuyev HaMetzias, the only thing that has to exist is the essence of God. That's all there is that must be. Because it just is. Is with a capital I and a capital S. Absolute isness. What's called Yesh Amiti. There's Yesh HaNivra, which we described over there. Created reality. And then there's true reality. What's the only thing that truly exists? The essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because it doesn't depend on anything else for its existence. Every other state of reality depends on something else as the source of its existence. So it doesn't really exist. Its source does. Okay, go to the source. Well, that only exists because it has a source in a higher level. At the end of the chain, you get to a place that exists by virtue of itself. It just is. Didn't come from anywhere. No one put it there. It just is. What's that? That's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the level of godliness we can't possibly understand. But that level, the Zohar says, Leis Makshava Tfisa Beichlal. No thought can comprehend it. We don't understand what it means that something doesn't have a source in something else. Even though there's all sorts of people walking around who pretend that the world doesn't, but that's just a completely absurd contention. It's just so lacking in sophistication that it's unbelievable. I always find it astounding, because they tend to be, many of them are very sophisticated people, but they are completely unsophisticated in the most basic issues of life. Like, why are you, where are you, and where did you come from? Well, I just am. Oh, Bernat. What a ridiculous notion. Is there anything else you experience in life that just is? Absolutely nothing. So why in the world would you posit that about yourself and about the reality that you live in? Such an absurd position. Intellectually, it's a completely absurd position. Nothing works that way. Except the only thing that matters, existence itself. Oh, well, actually, interesting enough, you're right. But physical reality isn't that which exists by virtue of itself. There is a level of reality called God that exists by virtue of itself. That's beyond physical reality. Because all of the physical reality you experience, you realize completely and totally that it all has a source in something higher than it. Or something else. They might not use the word higher because it makes them nervous, because it obligates. Once you agree that there's something higher, then you're obligated to behave a certain way. And I don't want to. I want to do what I want. I want to make the decisions in my life. Okay, then I have to make sure there's no one bigger than me. As soon as there's someone bigger than me, then I can't do that anymore. That's annoying. And we all find that annoying, at least part of us. Part of us called the Nefesh Bahamis might be annoyed by that I don't get to make the decisions. Okay, that's the way it goes. Right? Most people deal with that by going to work and having a boss. I mean, they figure out it's in some aspects of life, I'm not the one who makes the decisions. My boss does. He decides he's going to move me to another part of the company. Well, that's just the way it goes. Well, I don't want to go. Okay, so don't go. Just find another job. So we all deal with that somehow. Okay, but I don't want to deal with that in the deepest existential aspects of my being. Well, okay, sorry. It's there too. There's a big boss, right? Who happens to be a little more sophisticated and a little more real and a little more amazing than the boss that pushes you around at work. Mm-hmm. Or the market forces that push you around at work if you happen to be the boss. I mean, something's pushing you around, right? No, I'm in charge. No, you're not. There's market forces that are forcing you to act a certain way in how you run your company. I want to run my company this way. Yeah, but the market forces say that if you do that, your company's going to go bust, so you better do something else. Why are the market forces that way? I don't know. They just changed 5 years ago. So I have to change with them. And if I don't, I'm going to lose my company, right? Okay. But I'm not in charge? No, I'm not in charge. There's one thing that we're, that to a certain degree we're in charge of. And the Eibishter is very kind in giving us that. We're basically in charge, meaning, I know this sounds contradictory, but it's really not. We are in charge in terms of how we live our lives. Meaning, the Eibishter gives us the possibility to say, okay, I want to live my life as if I'm in charge. Okay, you can do that if you want. Now, you're not in charge, but okay, you can. If you want to live your life as if you are, so then you can. You can do whatever you want.
Not true.
Why not?
Totally. Because the Eibishter gives us circumstances within which we have to
The Seder, but I get to react to those circumstances however I want. Right? Now I can react an unhealthy way or a healthy way, right? But he gives me. You're right. There's all sorts of things that are going to happen that I don't have control over. That's true. But my reaction to them, I have absolute control over. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I can have the so-called, what you and I will call the unhealthy reaction or the healthy reaction. Okay.
It can be with simcha, it can be depressed.
Exactly. Right? One's unhealthy, one's healthy, 100%. Hopefully the simchatic reaction will also be in line with the Eibishter's will, which you would assume it will be, but I mean, okay, 100%. 100%. So that is interesting. That on one hand, it's all him. On the other hand, he gives you and I this interesting challenge that basically the one thing that you're completely in charge of is your life. Right? Do whatever you want with it. That doesn't mean you're always going to get what you want. Okay, but you can still react to that however you want. Some things you're going to be reacting, some of the things you're going to be proactive, right? The different things in life. Okay. But ultimately, that's up to me.
Isn't that the great conundrum that we deal with?
100%.
How can there be a God if we have free will?
Because he wants us to have.
Right.
100%.
The believers, that's where the believers, non-believers disagree.
Well, he wants us to have that experience of existence. What you're just describing is the experience of existence, that I exist. In other words, I'll make decisions about my life. Right. 100%. That mean, but that now means I'm responsible. It's very interesting. It's very people would like to have complete and total control over the decisions they make, but they don't want to be held responsible for the decisions they make. Those same people are usually will say no, but I'm not responsible, and they will define themselves as a victim, so they're no longer responsible. That's like, the world has embraced victimhood. They learned it from a group of people called the Palestinians. And I hate to be, right, they also learned it from a group of people called Black America, which is why Black America has to get it together. Not a racist statement, just a reality. Black America has embraced victimhood. Well, it's killing you, this victimhood. Why don't you get it together and stop pretending you're victims and go just make things happen positively? Just like those people, the so-called Palestinians. They've embraced victimhood. Don't do anything. Just want everybody else to take care of them because they're victims. Now, I can do that in my own life in my own way, but they're just the two most obvious examples of it. Right? The one thing that's really fascinating about Jewish experience for the last 3,000 years, much of which has been in very, very trying circumstances, we have never embraced victimhood, ever. And that's why we win all the time. We respond in a different way. We did not embrace victimhood. We could have embraced victimhood after the Second World War. We didn't. All those people who were just Pashut superheroes moved somewhere else and started again. Which is astounding. How they had the courage to do that, I don't know. You're not talking about people who had a few rough years. You're talking about people who lost 5 children and a wife, or 5 children and a husband, and they went somewhere else and said, I'm starting again. They got remarried, started a new family, and put together a life. How did they get the courage to do that? It's amazing, those people. Why? They were not victims. Not a victim. Right? I'm in control of what I do, and I'm going to make something happen in my life. And they didn't give up. Kol hakavod. And why? And the fact they didn't give up is why we're here. Right? It's an amazing thing. Oh, there's a clock back there. I didn't know. It's a funny place to put a clock. I guess the teacher's not supposed to sit here. Okay. So you're right. That's the interesting challenge of Eilam Hazeh. That's what Mayim is all about. Mayim Rabim. What's Mayim Rabim all about? Mayim Rabim is all about the fact that my neshama comes into Eilam Hazeh and deals with a situation where it might be that I think that absolutely and existentially I'm in charge. That's not true. Right? The Eibishter's in charge. The Eibishter, within the context of being in charge, and everything is an expression of his hashgacha pratis, does say to you and I, but I want you to know, I'm going to give you an experience called existence, and that existence is going to be that you are responsible for every decision you make in your life. You are the one making those conscious decisions. Now, those conscious decisions might be, as Barry said, those consciousnesses might be as a response to things that are happening outside of you that you have no control over. Or those conscious decisions might be things that you yourself are bringing about. We'll call that reactive or proactive, 100%. But ultimately, it's all based on your conscious decisions. Everything that happens in your life is going to be based, not that happens, everything that you do in your life is going to be based on those conscious decisions. Make healthy ones, which means choose life. That's what the Abishur says. I'm going to give you the choice between positive conscious decisions or negative conscious decisions. Choose the positive ones. It's all the Eibishter. Right, exactly. Reveal the fact that this world is all him. Even though the world's created in such a way that it doesn't look like it's all him, it's created in a way that's called Ba'ofen HaShvira, which we learned about how Shvir Zakelim brings about that reality. Astounding. Amazing. It's pashut amazing. Wait until you see what the Rebbe says about all this. He hasn't even started in the matter yet. Bechinas tzur, sheshamu sheresh neshama. That's the true source of the neshama, the tzur, the essence of the Eibishter. And that's why the Mayim Rabim can't douse the love. Because we are essentially connected to the Eibishter, and revealed reality does not affect essential reality. Right? What's the mashal we've used many, many times to try to understand that? DNA. The closest we'll come to essential reality in terms of ourselves, revealed essential reality, is DNA. Okay. Your DNA says you have brown hair. You dye it black. You make the conscious decision that you want black hair and you dye it black for 50 years. Change your DNA? No. Changes your revealed reality. It doesn't change your essential reality. Because you can't change your essential reality. Now, relative to DNA today, we can. Okay, Beseda, Baruch Hashem, there's, cutting edge medicine is working on trying to get at the root of it all. Right? If you can affect the BRCA gene, you're going to save millions of women's lives. Millions. Right? Was it 8%? 8% of all women? Contact by, or even more, I think. Very, very high percentage of women are affected by breast cancer at some point.
Oh, breast cancer in general.
Very
high, even more than
more.
that.
It's a ridiculous percent.
Right.
If they figure that out, wow. They're getting there. They're trying to figure out how to, they've located the gene. There's two of them. There's a Jewish BRCA gene and a non-Jewish BRCA gene.
And it's also ovarian cancer, but that's related to that.
What? The Jewish one?
The BRCA.
The BRCA, yeah. Yeah, a woman who's found that gene, or most women who deal with that, do preventative measures at about 42 or 43 years old that'll, which are pretty drastic, but you're talking about a really high percentage chance of developing something that's not good to develop. So they do things to prevent it. Hopefully they're able to do that once their child rearing years are over, so that they can have as many kids as they want. But it's also among Jewish women, the Jewish BRCA gene. Everybody should get checked for it. Every Jewish woman should get checked for it. There's no question. It's extremely genetic, right? And okay, so you can't DNA. You can. They're getting to the point where they want to try to fiddle around with the genetic code. Okay, if they could do that, they could do some amazing, they could also do some horrible, terrible things like everything else, but they could also do some quite amazing things. Okay, that's good. So that, in that sense, DNA isn't a perfect mushal for etzem. Okay, but it's still a pretty good mushal, right? Because your black hair, your genes for black hair, those are your genes. You can do whatever you want. You can dye your hair blue, doesn't matter. Purple, green, doesn't matter. The genes are still exactly the same. And that's the essence of the neshama, connected to the Eibishter. You're connected to the Eibishter. A Yid is completely and totally, essentially connected to the Eibishter, and nothing that can happen in Eilam Hazeh can affect that essential connection. No matter how much the Mayim Rabim has affected that Jew, to the extent that the Jew doesn't even know they're a Jew. They might even know they're Jewish. Right? They are. That's what they are. And they're connected to the Eibishter in that very, very powerful way. That the spirit will return to the Eibishter that gave it. In other words, it will return back to its ultimate godly source. That level of God that is the source of the soul. That's the flint. So there's the most revealed aspect of the fire. That's the flame, rather easily doused. A flame in a candle, you can douse it with your fingers. They don't even have to be wet. No problem. There'll still be a little glow on the wick for a few seconds. There's the gechelis. Takes a lot of water to get rid of the gechelis in the forest fire, in the campfire, or in the barbecue pit. Okay, and then there's the flint, which is the source of it all. And interesting enough, the flint itself is cold and dark. It's the source of the yesh. Atzmus. There's no ore there. It's the source of ore. but there's no or there. It's beyond or. And that's why it's referred to as dark. In Kabbalah, Atzmus is called the place of darkness. Why is it dark? There's no or. What's dark? A lack of or. Okay, there's no or there. It's beyond, it's a level of dark beyond or. The dark you and I experience is a level of dark below or, meaning if there's no or, it'll be dark. But as soon as you bring a little bit of light into that place, the light will overcome the dark. Right? One match in the middle of a dark Madison Square Gardens, everybody in the place will see the one match in the middle of the, court, ice, wherever the match is. It's not going to light. I can't read by it, but everybody will see that light. Okay. That's revealed light. Let's go a little further. V'hine. Now the Rebbe is going to start the end of the Maimar, which is the atomic bomb of the Maimar. V'hine lo zu bilvad. And now we'll understand why it is. I'm sorry. There's one question we didn't answer. So is this all? This was all just a setup? Meaning, why does now that we know what we know? So why does Shlomo Melech have to say what he says? It was all just a setup. The source of the neshama isn't Atzilus. The source of the neshama is Etzem. So of course the Mayim Rabim can't douse the love of the soul. Why does Shlomo Melech even have to say it? And the Rebbe gave the answer. Oh, because the source of the neshama is Atzilus. No, it's not. Well, yes, it is, because there's different levels of source. The revealed source of the neshama is Olam Atzilus. What does that mean? What's your source? Now, you'll all be religious, because you're Mayanot, you're all religious. Oh, God's my source. Okay, that's true. That's true. But what's the most immediate source of your existence?
Putrid drop.
What?
A putrid drop.
Okay, Beseder, you're just being religious. What's the
parents?
Your parents, right?
Oh, that's a putrid
Your
drop.
yes, Beseder. No, that's your father. Your mother is not a putrid drop. Your father is a putrid drop. Your mother is a beautiful little egg, right? But your mother's not an egg, and your father isn't a putrid drop, right? Your father is a living human being, or perhaps someone who was living. Most of us our age, unfortunately, right? So who is a vibrant and wonderful person, right? He wasn't a putrid drop. Okay, he produced this putrid little drop, and he had a very good time doing it. Okay, fine. So, your parents. Who do you look like? Your parents, right? You look like the Etzem of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I don't know what the Etzem of a Kodesh Baruch Hu looks like, to be perfectly honest, but I do know what my father looks like, and there are aspects of me that look like him. There's going to be aspects of me that look like my mother also, right? What experience are you going to have one day, which probably the three of us have had and you guys haven't yet had, and I'm sorry for pulling rank, but when I explain the experience, you'll understand why I'm saying it. You're going to walk down the street one day, and you're going to see some 20-year-old guy. You never met him, and you're going to go up to him. Can I ask you a question? Is your last name November? And he says, yeah. Wow. Your father was my roommate in yeshiva. You look exactly like him. And it's a spooky experience, because you now know that your roommate in yeshiva is now as old and decrepit as you are. He doesn't look like this anymore. This might be his grandson, right? But he's going to only be, he's not going to be old and decrepit when you see his 20-year-old son. He's going to be 45, 50. Okay. You're going to see someone who looks exactly like someone you knew when you were 20. Right? Someone came up to my nephew in Chabados in Thailand. Right? Came up to my nephew and said, "Are you RB Kaplan's son?" The guy, Jack Eisner. Jack Eisner grew up with my brother in Vancouver. They were involved in a lot of Jewish groups together, growing up. Jack moved to Thailand. He's married and lives in Thailand. I hope he's married to someone Jewish in Thailand. I'm not asking. I don't know. But Jack lives in Thailand. But he was in the Hamados in Chiang Mai. That's where he lives. Right? And he saw some Lubavitcher Bocher who was helping out either Pesach or Tishrei, I don't know what it was, who had come to Thailand to help out for something where they needed help. The Shluchim needed help. Again, he used to go Pesach and Tishrei almost every year. He was in Thailand a number of times. Right? Someone came up to him and asked him, he had no clue. I said, are you RB Kaplan son? I said, yeah. How do you know? She said, I grew up with him. You look exactly like he looked when he was your age. Now, my brother didn't have a full beard when he was that age. Right? Okay. But he looked like him. Okay, so what's obvious? That's his source. Is that his deepest, truest source? No. No. Who's the deepest, truest source? The Eibishter. But is it reasonable to say that a child is sourced in his parents? Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's true. Okay, so then what's Atzilus? What's the connection of Atzilus to the Neshama? Just like you might be a spitting image of your father, your Neshama is a spitting image of Atzilus. Is there a deeper source of your Neshama? Yes, there is, and that's the Tzur. That's not the Gechelis of Atzilus. That's the Tzur of Atzmus. Yes, there is a higher level. But it's also true that the source of the Neshama is Elam Atzilus, and that's why you say it every day. You say Neshama Shenasad Bi Taharahi, and when you say that, different Maimarim will relate to that in different ways. But the simplest pshat in that statement is you're saying the source of the Neshama is Elam Atzilus. Because that's true. So what the Rebbe said, but he's not pulling our leg just to ask a question, give an answer. No, that's true. The source of the Neshama and the revealed source of the Neshama is Takatzilus. And so you might ask, how can it possibly be that the Mayim Rabim, it doesn't douse the Neshama? Oh, because there's a deeper source that's not revealed, but it's a deeper source. That's called Atzmus. Okay, just like you have a source. Right? And in Gashmias you have a source. What's your deepest source in Gashmias? Where do you really come from in Gashmias? Yes, you come from your parents, but where do you really come from? In Gashmias. Avram Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rochel, Leah. That's not a reasonable thing to say. You say it every day. Adam and Chava, it's not a reasonable thing to say. Don't we all come from Adam and Chava in the end? Yeah. Don't we all come from Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rochel, Leah in the end? No, yeah, most people. Except unless, there's been some conversion along the way, but most Jews come from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And even the ones who are converted, what are they called? Ben Avram. So really, they do come from Avram, but for whatever reason, it had to happen in an unusual way. Okay, but they still are called Ben Avram. That's what they're called. Right? So on that level, they're even a more revealed. There's a more revealed connection to Avram than there is in your average Jew, because your average Jew, when he's called up to the Torah, is not the average Jew. The Jew is not Ger Tzedek, is not called up to the Torah as Ben Avram. The Ger Tzedek is. Wow, that's interesting. His relationship to Avram is more revealed than the Jew standing next to him who might come from a 3,000-year line of Jews. So he doesn't. Now, he might have some Judaism back there. Who knows? All sorts of interesting things. Okay, but in revealed realities, what's called the Ger Tzedek. We're on a very, very high level. Rashi, you've been saying Hallel a lot lately. You're going to say it again today. Right? You're going to say about different people praising God. Kili Elam Chazdei, who? Beis Aaron. And what do you start with? What's the first level? No. Haydu l'shem kiter Kili Elam Chazdei. What do you say next? Yomer na Yisrael Kili Elam Chazdei. Then Yomer na Beis Aaron Kili Elam Chazdei. Then Yomer na Yirei Avaya. Who's that? I understand. I just said Yisrael and Bnei Aaron. So who's Yirei Avaya? What does Rashi say on that pasuk in Tehillim? Ger Tzedek. Yisrael, Kayin, Ger Tzedek. Manyan. So he said twice in Hallel. There's 2 times you said. Oh, Manyan. So I say Heidu Levaya. We start with Yerushem Kili Elam Chazda, but also Heidu Levaya. Okay. So interesting that that Ger Tzedek says in a revealed way that he comes from Avram Avinu. So do you and I. So what's our source? Well, when you stand in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, what do you say? Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu v'Elokei Aviseinu. So Elokeinu is us here, and that'll include my physical father, physical mother, right? Okay. Elokei Aviseinu. And then I focus more on the Elokei Avosenu than I focus on Elokeinu, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei. Why am I able to stand in front of you? Well, because I come from Avram Avinu, I come from Yitzchak, I come from Yaakov. Oh, okay. So that's on a deeper level. In Gashmias, you're talking in Gashmias. That's our source. Now, yes, of course, since that's where we're sourced, we also have this ruchniistic inheritance. I get it, the spiritual inheritance, but in Gashmias, what's our source? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So is your source your father, or is your source Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Both. They're both true. So too the neshama. What's its source? Atzilus, yes. Atzmus, yes. Since the revealed source is Atzilus, so Shlomo HaMelech has to tell you that, don't worry, tell you can't wipe it out. Why not? Because the true source is Atzmus. Okay, it's late. I want to just see where we're going next, and then we're going to stop because it's Rosh Chodesh again, and we all have to be in a place in davening where we can say Hallel with the minyan. Hine leizu bilvad she'ein bi'achelis Mayim Rabim hanal lechabes chas v'shama sa'ava shel neshama. Not only, we'll see where we're going Sunday. Not only that there's not an ability of the Mayim Rabim, the craziness of this world, to douse chas v'shalom, the ava of the neshama, the love of the neshama. Ela yeseri mizu. Furthermore, shal yodam, by virtue of encountering the Mayim Rabim here in Olam Hazeh, Nase Yisrain Ba'ava. The Ava grows. There's a greater love. Now, read the next line, and this will hopefully cause you not to be able to sleep for the next 2 days. Vahu, shall yedei yeridus and neshama lamata, by virtue of the descent of the soul below, by Eilam Hazeh, into this physical world, v'hislav shusa, and it's being clothed by Mayim Rabim, it's encountering the Mayim Rabim, he magia madrega nailis yeser. She reaches a level that is higher, mi madregosa, from her level koidemi ridasa lamata, before her descent below. Meaning the neshama, not only is it not affected negatively by the Mayim Rabim, it experiences an elevation by virtue of encountering the Mayim Rabim. Okay, the Rebbe is going to explain that in Ois Daled and Ois Hey. Now, what's wrong with what we just said? Why should that bother you? What did we just say in our mind? What did we just learn before we read what we just read?
We said that the water can't douse.
Okay, why?
Because of the essential connection to Atzmas.
Oh, that was the neshama sourced in Atzmas.
And how could you get higher?
How can you get higher from Atzmas? There isn't anything higher than Atzmas. How can you get to a place higher than the true source of the neshama before it descended in the world? We just learned the source of the neshama is Atzmus. There isn't anything beyond Atzmus. Atzmus is if you're going up, that's the end of the road. It's not like the top of the building, there's an antenna on top of the building. No. Atzmus, there isn't anything beyond Atzmus. So how can we possibly say that the neshama experiences an elevation from Atzmus? There isn't anything beyond Atzmus. Atzmus is the source of all. Atzmus is that which exists by virtue of itself. It has no source in anything else. That's why the only thing that truly exists is Atzmus. Because the only thing that exists by virtue of itself. It's the only thing that doesn't have anything else giving it existence. Because if I have something giving me existence, then what exists is not me, but the thing giving me my existence. That's what's really there. I'm just an expression of it. But it has a source. Okay, so that's what's really there. It has a source. Keep going until you get to Atzmus. It has no source. That's what's real. So how can I get higher than there? The Rebbe is going to completely ignore that question in Ois Daled and explain the mechanics as to why the neshama experiences an elevation by virtue of coming into the world. And then in Ois Hey, the Rebbe is going to ask the question and answer it. Okay? But he's going to completely ignore it in Ois Daled. But we should ask him. We just learned that the source of our neshama is Atzmus. It's nothing beyond Atzmus. How can you possibly reach a higher level than Atzmus? There's no such thing. The Rebbe knows that better than you and I, and he just said what he said. Okay. Cool. That'll be Sunday. Sunday, Lav Dafka, we'll see the answer to that question. Sunday, we'll see why we experience an elevation. The Rebbe is going to explain the equation. He's not going to explain how the equation works. He's just going to explain what the equation is. And then, in Hay, the Rebbe will explain the answer to that question. He'll ask it. Okay. We will see some of you in Gemara class. There is Gemara class today. Remember that, Alan? There is Gemara class today. What are you doing? You're racing Atzmos? It shouldn't be in reality. It shouldn't be in revealed reality.